They're dying in gas stations, bathrooms, at the wheel of the car, while driving with their children in the car seat behind them, and alone in secret places that they hide from the world. I would find my daughter Courtney curled in a ball on her closet floor, hiding from the world. I pray your children will be spared from this plague, and that you never know what it's like to be me.
That was Doug Griffin, a New Hampshire dad who lost his 20-year-old daughter to an overdose in 2014. He was talking there at the President's Commission on the Opioid Crisis. During that meeting, exactly 1 week after the president declared the opioid epidemic a public health emergency, the commission released its final report. So that includes 56 new recommendations to fight this thing. These recommendations range from more drug courts to creating a better system for states to access federal funding. But these are recommendations. There's no guarantee they're going to materialize. I'm joined now by a member of that bipartisan commission, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. Governor, thank you very much for being here on a story that we cover a lot on this show. And I want to start with today's headline from the Raleigh paper you know well, which says, Commission okays 56 ways to curb opioid crisis. Cooper asks, who will follow through? And that's the question I want to get at with you here. This report acknowledges these guidelines mean Congress has to give a lot of money. The DOJ has to do a lot of cooperation here. How confident are you that that's going to happen?
Well, we know crisis. Those stories yesterday were powerful, and they're happening all over America. 142 people a day dying of overdose, more than in car accidents. 4 of them are in North Carolina. So we have to pull together and to get this done. Yes, I'm concerned about follow-through because it's going to involve investment. We've got the evidence. We've got the scientific data that shows us what we need to do to pull ourselves out of this crisis. A lot of that has to do with making sure that people have health care coverage, making sure that people have treatment because there's evidence-based treatment that works, and destigmatizing substance use disorder is critical because we need to begin treating substance use disorder like we do heart problems, cancer, physical ailments. And I think pulling together with this report and pushing it out like this is going to be important. And I ask for the President and Congress and for the governors all over this country to work now on follow-through. This is an epidemic, it is a crisis.
Right, but you talk about being concerned about that follow-through. What are you going to do? What can you do to make sure that that actually happens, that this isn't just more talk from D.C.?
Well, first, we need to put all of the pressure we can on Congress to make sure they expand health care coverage.
What does that pressure look like? What does that mean you're going to do?
Well, I'm going to call my individual members of Congress. I'm working on my state legislature right now, telling them, hey, you haven't even taken the federal Medicaid expansion. When I tried to do it, you sued me. Now you have friends and neighbors who are dying from this epidemic. It is time to step up and make sure the people get the treatment that they need and that the investments are made. Personalizing this, hearing the stories that we heard yesterday of people dying on the streets, and this spans the spectrum of rich and poor, of white and black,
every
of Republican and Democrat. You know, down the road, this is an epidemic that has to happen.
I want to ask you this because unless the president says otherwise, and I apologize for interrupting you there, I just want to make sure I get to this before we have to let you go. The commission will dissolve in 30 days, right? So is there any indication that the White House wants to actually keep the commission intact, wants you to keep meeting?
You know, we've made the recommendations. We know what we need to do. We can go even further than this, but I think the follow-through now is what is critical. Governor Christie telling me yesterday that he believes that the president will follow through on these recommendations, and we have to insist on that. And I believe that this is one of those bipartisan issues where we could get significant movement out of Washington. God, they can't agree on hardly anything else. This is something they should be able to agree on. They can reduce some regulations that could help states provide more treatment to people here. And we know that we've got to do this because law enforcement will tell you right now we cannot arrest our way out of this problem. We can't.
Governor Roy Cooper, thank you very much for joining us here on this program.